Hello? This is the Bartlett Police Department. Can I help you?
Yes, sir. My wife left here about 2 hours ago.
A young nurse is missing. Where is Micah Pate?
There's police cars everywhere. It is a scary situation. It's not what I envisioned in going and starting to look for my sister.
A desperate search is underway.
We were standing at every crossroad in Bartlett near her home handing out flyers, thousands and thousands of flyers, and all of us searching because we wanted to find Micah.
Where could Micah be? Where's Micah? The dog was there, she wasn't there.
In a police interrogation room, a father begs for information from his son.
Did something happen to Michael last night? Did our kid, yes, sir. Did something happen to Michael last night, son?
Detectives gather evidence until a picture of a suspect emerges. Which piece of the puzzle will reveal Thomas Pate as guilty of murder? What will be a killer's mistake?
He had a lie, and he sold so many people on that lie, and frankly almost got away with it.
Dennis and Terry Rine are preparing to go to bed when the phone rings. It's their daughter's husband.
We got a call that Thursday night. I think it was around 10:30 was the first call, and just said, Thomas said, hey, do you know where Micah is? She's gone out for a run. She hadn't come back.
That was not uncommon for her to go running. It was uncommon for her to go running late at night, in the dark, in a rainstorm.
No, we haven't heard from her, but please call us and let us know if you hear anything or what's going on. And so there was at least one other call, or maybe two, I can't remember. But on the final call, it was, okay, Thomas, you need to be calling the police and start a search.
Thomas Pate tells his in-laws that Micah has been missing for several hours now. After their insistence, he calls police.
Hello? This is the Bartlett Police Department. Can I help you?
Yes, sir. My wife left here about 2 hours ago.
Okay.
And she left at like 8:30, and she was gonna either go for a walk or run.
Micah's parents are 100 miles away in Arkansas.
We packed our stuff and headed to Memphis immediately. It's about a 2-hour drive. And at that point, when we got to the house, he had already organized a search party, and they had been at it for several hours.
He notified people in the neighborhood, her friends, her co-workers. Everyone was looking for Micah. Where was Micah? So there's this big search, this big hunt for Micah the evening of the 30th.
We got to Memphis between 1 and 2 o'clock in the morning. And so as soon as we got there, he said, well, she's going out for a run. So I started running the routes that I knew that we had been on from her house around Bartlett.
26-year-old Micah is an OB/GYN nurse at a local women's health clinic. Her patients, her colleagues, everyone who meets her, likes Micah.
She was the nurse that you wanted on your side, the one that you wanted to be there to help you with a patient. Patients loved Micah. She just was energetic and just had this honesty about her. you just kind of fell into that and you just wanted to talk to her.
It takes a few hours for friends and family to get to Micah's home so they can begin the search.
I drive to Memphis to start looking for Micah. There's police cars everywhere. It starts to make me even more alarmed. I mean, it is a scary situation. It's not what I envisioned in going and starting to look for my sister.
We were 12 hours plus into looking for Micah at this point, standing at every crossroad in Bartlett near her home, handing out flyers, thousands and thousands of flyers, and all of us searching because we wanted to find Micah.
Police, responding to the 911 call, know that the first 24 hours are vital in finding a missing person. It's still early in the morning when Detective Alfred is given the case.
Lieutenant Halford came to the house about 7 o'clock, and that's when the investigation became much more intense because he took charge of the situation.
Lieutenant Alfred is one of the first investigators on the scene. Straight away, he notices that Pate is behaving strangely.
As I walked around the house, instead of Thomas sitting or talking to anybody or talking to the officer, he actually followed me throughout the house, made small talk with me while I was looking at different things, explaining things that didn't need explanation.
Police officers are very smart. This is their job, and they do this every single day, the investigator. So he or she may not put all the cards on the table, but just ask the question, where were you at this time?
And he's not telling the Bartlett police anything except for her leaving, she's gone jogging.
For Detective Alfred, the red flags are stacking up.
Heavy rain, heavy thunder, most people don't go jogging that, even if they're training for a marathon. As we were looking through the house, Micah's purse is still at the house. Micah's phone is still at the house. Her ID is still at the house. I mean, even when you go jogging, you go to the gym, you take your phone with you.
Dr. Everett Penn is a criminologist who has consulted with both the police and the US Department of Justice. He is familiar with how missing person investigations are run.
You're looking for clues. Where is the next place to look? You're asking what telephone calls were made, what texts were made. What can give us an opportunity to say that this story is not over, that there perhaps is an answer where this person is at this place or that place?
While police begin piecing together Micah's last known movements, word is spreading of her disappearance. Melissa Conklin, a friend and colleague at Moga, the clinic where she works, helps coordinate the search.
I was like, I've got to go find her. What do you need me for? What can I do?
Micah and Thomas live near a basin of the Loosahatchee River known as the Loosahatchee Bottom. Realizing that the search area is vast, Melissa calls in backup.
We called husbands. We went and got four-wheelers, side-by-sides, and we went to the Loosahatchee Bottoms to look for her. We did that for a few hours and came up with nothing. We went back to her house. We started walking the same route that she would have run, and we went through all the crevices, the ditches.
I'm looking at culverts where she might have tripped. Would she have fallen into off the side of a road, off the side of a sidewalk? Where would someone have come by and tried to abduct her? What are some places where that could have taken place? And I'm looking around. I'm just looking for any kind of sign about what's going on.
Everyone's doing all they can to try and find Micah. There was very little sleep had by anybody.
Back at the family home, attention is beginning to focus on Pate.
Who was the last person that saw that person? Often goes to the spouse. The spouse is probably the first person looked at.
There was one time that I asked Thomas, it just occurred to me, I wonder if they've had a fight. And I didn't get in his face or scream at him or anything else. I just said, did y'all have a fight? Or did you have a disagreement and maybe she's just left and spent the night with a friend or something. He said no, they hadn't had a disagreement, nothing had happened.
I think Lieutenant Halford knew pretty quickly that Thomas was lying because of some things that didn't add up, and that's when he moved us to the police station to continue the investigation there while the police got the warrants and searched the house and continued the investigation there.
With Micah missing for more than 12 hours, Detective Halford ramps up the investigation. He gets the whole family to the police station to begin interviews.
This is where investigators do their work to find out, is there a reason why this person is going missing or perhaps even killed? These conversations take place where when investigators are looking to find answers to put together that timeline.
One of my first questions for Lieutenant Halford was, why are you taking Thomas to this other place? And he goes, well, typically in these situations, the first person we have to eliminate is the spouse. And so we're gonna question him separately from the family. And I was like, okay. And so that's when it began to sink in that we've got a problem.
That's when our conversation started to move to, well, does he know something about it?
When we were interviewing him up here at headquarters, and without the door closed, just a regular room, just sitting there talking to him, anytime we would ask him a question that was the least bit pointed, that would maybe position him to give us an answer he didn't want to give us, he'd start dry heaving.
What is Thomas Pate hiding?
Sadly, I think Thomas had a volatile nature, did have a penchant for alcohol and drugs.
Meanwhile, detectives, family and friends want to know, where is Micah? Thomas's own father also wants answers from his son.
Thomas, look at me. Where's Micah? What else do I not know? Tell me everything I don't know right now. Start now. Tell me the truth.
Detectives begin to piece together the life timeline of the missing Micah, maiden name Rine. She grows up in a tight-knit Christian household in Arkansas.
Was 4 years older than Micah, and she wanted to do the same things that I wanted to do, and she had that tomboy kind of a spirit, and we love sports and we like being outdoors and we like doing a lot of things like that.
For her parents, Terry and Dennis, it's important that their children are raised practicing their faith.
We are a Christian family, and we focus on trying to walk what we talk about. It's not just a matter of checking things off, going to church on Sunday, but actually trying to live what we say through the week. We wanted to be authentic and actually live our faith.
Micah has what some would say is an idyllic childhood. She's raised attending Christian youth camps and Sunday schools.
She led a rather sheltered life, though, I must say. It was a small town in Arkansas, predominantly very Christian. There's like no alcohol sold in that county.
She was very obedient and was a pleaser. She wanted to please Terry and I, and she even wanted to please Casey, but she was very energetic. She was very talkative.
She was a peacemaker and was real sweet about how she kind of conducted herself socially. She also was very driven athletically and academically and did well on the basketball court especially, and she enjoyed running.
In 2002, Micah opts to stay near to her home as she chooses a college. She gets a place to study nursing at Harding University, the local private Christian school attended by many of her friends.
In our town, we have a university that is kind of this next step beyond the K-12 school that they went to. And so a lot of the same kiddos went to that school, and so she still had much of the same friend group and enjoyed mixing with them.
Towards the end of the fall semester, she meets fellow student Thomas Pate. At first, it seems they have a lot in common.
He's athletic, and so it matched up with my sister wanting to play basketball and be involved in those things. They liked to be outdoors, they liked sports, and so I could see how they could match up.
But in reality, Thomas's upbringing is very different to Micah's. While Micah comes from a dry county that doesn't allow the sale of alcohol, Thomas has a history of substance abuse.
They were from two very different worlds. I think he had had experience with drugs and alcohol and had gone through maybe some treatment programs, but he was a much more worldly person than Micah was.
At his previous university, Thomas had been in trouble.
He had a basketball scholarship to another college initially. I believe he was asked to leave that college. He lost his scholarship and he had to leave the school.
Micah knows about Thomas's past but believes he's making a fresh start. Very soon, she brings him home to her family's regular Wednesday evening Bible study.
That was probably maybe 6 weeks after they started dating.
And so they would be regulars on Wednesday night then. So then it was just a matter of trying to get to know him. And first impression was, he's okay. Wasn't over the top impressed, but didn't have any big red flags to start with either.
There may not have been red flags, but after a while, Dennis and Terry begin to feel something isn't right with Thomas.
We started expressing some of our concerns. And the problem with that, though, was that we couldn't really put our finger on what it was that we wanted to point out that was not a good fit.
It was the game that he was playing. He knew the right lingo and the right things to say to try to impress us, but was he really living it? He wasn't authentic.
He shared that he had made some poor choices during his high school years and even the first year or so of college. And so part of that had to do with a lot of partying, a lot of drinking, some promiscuity, even dabbling some in some drugs.
She says, well, he's changed. He's actually trying to live what he says. We find out later again that that's not true.
Despite her family's misgivings, in 2004, when Thomas proposes, Micah says yes.
It was about 2 years from the time they started dating till the time they got married.
So before Micah and Thomas got married, he asked my dad's hand in blessing.
The close-knit Rine family try again to raise their concerns with Micah.
Before I walked her down the aisle, I said, Micah, it's still not too late. If you want to back out of this, I'll support you 100%. I want what's best for you. And she just said, no, let's go with it. Let's take me down the aisle. Let's do this.
After they married, they still lived here for 2 semesters, almost a whole year.
After that, she had received a nursing job with a clinic in Memphis, and they moved to Memphis, or rather to Bartlett, which is just on the outskirts of Memphis.
Micah and Thomas moved to Bartlett, a town about 15 minutes outside of Memphis, Tennessee. For a small-town girl, it's an adjustment, but Micah quickly settles into her new job at the Moga Clinic.
Micah was an employee of mine, so she was a nurse at Moga.
Micah and Thomas build a new life for themselves in Tennessee, but the people around them begin to notice that theirs is a volatile relationship.
The thing that I noticed the most was the anger. I had noticed anger in Thomas before, and it seemed to intensify a little bit more with the marriage. A couple times as I would talk to Micah, and we would talk back and forth at least twice a week on the phone, I'd just ask her how things are going, and she would hint at, well, Thomas and I had a good day. We were able to work in the yard today without any issues.
He would push to get his way, to get control. He would make her probably feel better if they stayed at home alone. You know, he'd give her some compliments. Or if they went out, he'd probably say, you know, oh, why aren't you dressing like that person? Or why do you have to be so picky about your food? You know, things that would make her feel bad about herself.
We don't know that he ever hit Micah physically, but the yelling and the screaming we know was there after the fact. And so there would be this argument and belittling. You're so stupid. Why can't you get this right? And then at the other extreme of saying, oh, you're so sweet. I love you so much.
It wasn't like bruises and cuts and scratches and broken bones and cigarette burns. It wasn't that kind of domestic violence. It was the kind of scars in her heart and her spirit dampened and all those things that made her who she was. Many of those were taken away.
He just belittled her. And I think that his drinking didn't help that, because it would be in those spells that he would drink and things would come out of his mouth that it shouldn't.
Thomas had told Micah and her family that his days of abusing drugs and alcohol were well behind him. It wasn't true. In the spring of 2009, Micah learns of his other vices.
She had come to our house for a weekend, and he was going hunting, is what he said.
He actually had met a woman on a flight to Atlanta, and he was indeed in communication with her and had met her for a weekend down at the casinos in Tunica, Mississippi.
Micah's devastated.
According to her coworkers, she came back to work and sort of broke down, crying.
She knew about this girl. I remember Micah being totally distraught, to the point of where I went and got her stuff and helped her out the door, and she went home.
Micah spends her 26th birthday at her family home in Searcy. Her husband does not travel with her.
Micah did not confide in us at all about any struggles that she was having in her marriage. We were even unaware that there had been indiscretions with at least one other woman. We were unaware of his promiscuity and his attraction to pornography on his computer.
Micah goes home to Thomas. 2 days later, Terry and Dennis receive the phone call that will change their lives forever. They already had their suspicions. They're about to discover they're not the only ones.
We wanted to believe that someone had taken Micah or something had happened. I think that realistically we knew that we weren't going to find Micah the way we wanted to.
Did something happen to Micah last time? Just on his head, yes, sir. Did something happen to Micah last time, son? Tom.
Detectives bring Micah's family to the police station. While there, investigators separate Thomas Pate from the Rines and take him into an interrogation room.
They bring him in. He's questioned. He's brought to an interrogation room, a standard procedure where conversations take place. These conversations take place where officers, when investigators are looking to find answers, to put together that timeline.
Back at Micah's house, officers begin gathering anything that could help piece together the days leading up to her disappearance.
We have a search warrant. The police gather things from within the house. They take computers, they take phone bills, they take the actual phones.
The police uncover a lot of different things, from multiple bottles of alcohol to a history of pornography to him reaching out to another lady, whether that was via text message or meeting up in a casino in Tunica. All of these things were news to our family.
All through that search afternoon, more and more doubts began to arise about what's going on here. We're not getting the whole story. There's things here that don't add up.
Around noon is when we started to move towards, I think Thomas knows something where she's at, or so as that progressed, we became more and more concerned.
And they start going through more personal items, and it turned out that Micah kept a journal. The journal was very revealing. This journal was intended to be between Micah and God.
There was one entry in her prayer journal in February before this happened in April, and she had a whole paragraph that spoke to Thomas's indiscretions and unfaithfulness.
It expresses in there her struggle and her frustration with her inability to please Thomas.
Sort of shocking to go through this discovery method and seeing all of these things. Micah's prayer journal ties it all together, of her talking about her rocky marriage and the things that she's going through.
They had had a pastoral counselor from their church, and then later on had gone to a professional counselor.
Micah was stubborn. Micah had a very willful personality, and so I do believe that she was trying to make it work, and she was trying to do some things to help strengthen their marriage despite all of these other things that are happening.
Police present Thomas Pate with the evidence of his affair, his drinking, and his wife's unhappiness. Pate sticks to his story. He doesn't know where Micah is.
Thomas is incredibly narcissistic, and he had a lie, and he sold so many people on that lie, and frankly almost got away with it.
Eventually, detectives suggest a polygraph, a lie detector test. The results indicate he is lying about something, so they allowed Thomas to speak to his father. Maybe he can get to the truth.
When Thomas's father came to town, I think that's sort of when things changed, because there was no sight of Micah. And it turned out that father started talking to Thomas in an interview room at the Bartlett Police Department.
Thomas, look at me. Where's Micah? What else do I not know? Tell me everything I don't know right now. Start now. Tell me the truth.
This is where the mistake occurs. The interrogation room is called that because it is an interrogation room. It's recorded. There are officers watching. There's observation being made. You are not protected in such a room. There is no protection of what you say there is secret.
He went from being very aggressive and telling Thomas, you know, don't lie to me, tell me where Micah is. He went from that within a matter of minutes to Thomas confessing.
Did something happen to Micah last night? Just on here, yes or no? Did something happen to Micah last night, son? Thomas? Yes or no? Okay, that's it. Right? That's it. Is that right? Okay, all right. Thomas, look at me. Look at me. Look, we've come this far. Let's go the rest of one. Let's get it over with. You will feel better when this is over with.
Around 8 o'clock that night, the police pulled me and my mom and my dad into the side room, and they share with us that Micah was shot by Thomas.
Did she get the water hole, son? Is that what she did? Where is she, son? Where is she, son? Please, God, spend her to you. She's on the roof.
The Loosahatchee, where Micah's friends and colleagues are still desperately searching for a sign of her.
We were just so eaten up with anger, just so mad that this man allowed her family to drive in, her mom, her dad, her brother, her friends, to spend this time looking for her, hoping to find her, for you to know all along that you had shot her and left her at the bottoms with ants and mud.
The fact that he knew that whole time and was lying to us the whole time, it's so painful. It's so painful.
Pate tells detectives it was not a case of murder, that on the night of April 30th, he and Micah had gone shooting. Just a few days earlier, they'd found a new spot.
There's a cleared space on either side of the roadway, and according to Thomas, they would go target shooting out there. And that somehow there was a mistake and he accidentally shot her in the back of the head.
While Micah's family are processing the news that their missing daughter is actually dead, police lead a team to retrieve her body.
And so he takes the police to her body.
A killer leading to the body can be a time in which perhaps remorse is found, or perhaps I give up. The jig is up. I am now the guilty person, and perhaps there is some mercy that will be given to me if I show you where the body is.
I personally walked out to where they found her, and it is way off the road, in the middle of thorns, brambles, mud, leaves, everything, not far from the Loosahatchee River. And it looked as if he had probably carried her there.
If that rain would have continued, and it did, her body probably would have washed away had he not taken us there.
Pate sticks to his new story, that her death had been a terrible accident, that he had panicked and tried to cover it up. But Micah's body reveals more than he realizes about her last day alive.
He couldn't make it quite to the river, so he left her there, face down, with a gunshot hole in the back of her head.
Pate's story hinges on believing that Micah has headed out into the woods in the clothes that she'd worn to work.
And this is a muddy, muddy place where she is, full of dried leaves, dead grass, thorns, things of that nature. I was warned when I tried to go in there without boots on that there might be snakes. There was a very off the beaten path place.
I have lots of doubts about his story of the series of events.
Thomas also claims that Micah made a fatal error while target shooting.
We spent a lot of time at a Christian youth camp at Camp Dakota, and one of the things we do at Camp Dakota is target shoot. And so she would be very aware of the safety issues involved, because we would have 3 or 4 rifles shooting at the target at the same time, and she would be aware of the safety issues of making sure the rifles are put away when you go check to the target, that before you shoot there's nobody between you and the target.
He raised her to know about a gun. Good old Arkansas way. You learn how to fire a weapon, you learn how to take care of it, you learn what to do with it, to clean it, load it, fire it, and everything else. And she had a license to carry.
She was well aware of the safety issues involved with guns, and to not be in front of someone that was with a loaded gun.
For 72 hours, Detective Alfred and his team have worked tirelessly as their missing person case turns into an alleged accidental death. It's now time to decide if they can make the case for homicide.
There's always that question about what would have happened if we had gone on to trial.
Thomas Pate is charged with second-degree murder, a charge often used in accidental deaths when prosecutors feel they can't prove intent or premeditation. Micah's family doesn't believe the death of their daughter is down to an accident.
I do believe that it was premeditated, and I do think that the evidence from the texting, the leading us on a wild goose chase, all of those different things led to that this was more than an accident.
It just doesn't add up that it's an accident. The events that we know that took place after the shooting are not typical of a person who has committed an accident.
Prosecutor Missy Branham agrees. While Thomas Pate is released on bail, her team seeks to prove that Micah's death was not an accident. She begins to pick holes in Pate's story, and she commissions a ballistics report.
Going through the autopsy and seeing the crime scene photos and looking at the clothing, which was a ball cap with the hole in the back of it, the blood and a little powder burn, and going through the autopsy with the medical examiner. The gunshot wound is in the middle of the back of her head. It goes through her ball cap, and it's not quite a contact wound, but it is close. And Thomas was very experienced in firing weapons.
There's no accident when you shoot somebody in the back of the head, one shot with her own gun, and you don't call anybody, you don't call 911. That wasn't an accident. That's not an accident.
Assigned to the domestic violence unit, Missy Bonham tries to get an insight into their marriage. Did Pate have a motive for murder? Micah's journal proves instructive.
It clearly showed the dissolution of a marriage, and this was a sacrilege that was held very sacred by Micah, who's a very religious person, and the lengths she would go to try and make this marriage one that God would be proud of, that Thomas would be proud of, and that she could be proud of. When it becomes more and more evident with each page you read that she's miserable and losing touch with herself is just very heart-wrenching. It's tragic and it's sad. You start to see these red flags that come up as to how controlling he is.
And then we learned about some more drinking and the affairs.
The officers tracked back through his phone records, and there were many texts with another woman who was from New Jersey. And then they got into the bills for the credit cards, and that's when they discovered that there were charges made at Tunica, Mississippi. He used the credit card to play on the slot machines and to pay for the hotel room that he and this woman from New Jersey spent the night in.
I think he did have power and control of her for a while, but I think she challenged that, and that's what the turning point was. She caught him in his adulterous exploits. I believe that she caught him in some lies, and she realized what was going on. I don't know that to be true, but in my mind, I believe that was the turning point that led to her death.
Although disappointed that the charge is not murder in the first degree, prosecutors push on with trial preparation, a decision which might make life more bearable for Micah's family.
Early on, he was offered a plea deal of second-degree murder and 15 years, and we asked our friends to pray that he would take that, and he did not.
It was a disappointment to us that he did not take the plea on the front end. He could have saved us all those months of grief. We wanted to grieve the loss of our daughter. We wanted to get used to this new normal of having a daughter that was no longer with us. Instead, we had to concentrate on all the stuff that was going on in Memphis and make trips over there that were very emotionally laden. And so for all those months, we just felt like we were just dangling on somebody else's string.
For 2 years, Micah's friends and family wait for justice.
I longed for that trial. I wanted to know why. I wanted to know what happened. We were preparing for this.
We were ready for jury selection. We were ready to go over and be there for this week-long trial.
At the last moment, he made it an Alfred plea.
On Monday, March 7th, 2011, Pate enters an Alfred plea.
The Alfred plea says, I'm not confessing to doing this, but the evidence against me is overwhelming, and so therefore I wave the white flag.
The judge clapped his gavel on the desk and said, "You are guilty of second-degree murder." There was some comfort in that.
There was part of me that felt some relief that this is over. And so I say that is God's way of saying, here's the best blend of justice and mercy. We get to feel some justice, that there's a consequence being paid for what happened to Micah.
Thomas Pate is convicted of second-degree murder and sentenced to 25 years without parole.
The judge was so great. He said, but you are guilty of second-degree murder and you will go to prison for that. And so I get it that you're claiming this Alfred plea, but you're guilty.
Thomas Pate believed that he could lie to his wife, that he could silence and control her, and eventually that he could kill her and get away with it. But he'd made a mistake. Despite her death, Micah would not be silenced because of the journal she left behind.
Ultimately, we were allowed to use excerpts from the diary.
And so we have all these years of these beautiful little journals, and she would express herself so sweetly in those journals.
She ends her journal in a prayer to God, telling God, I love you so much, I really just want to be with you. And I'd have to say that Micah's prayer's answered, because right now she's with God. It shows her faithfulness through the journey, even though the marriage was pretty bad. She kept her faithfulness and her love for God, and that lets us live with hope. There will be a day when I'll see Micah again because of the resurrection of Jesus.
Together, the Rine family works to help educate others about the risks of controlling abusive relationships.
I miss my sister so much, and she was a light, and she is just an incredible example of what love looks like. If I could talk to her now, and in a way talk to other people that are in struggling relationships, I pray that if you're in a struggling relationship, if you're in a relationship that is rocky and is having some turmoil, don't keep it to yourself. Talk to someone about it.
It's actually called the invisible destroyer. And that phrase just adequately, is just very accurately describes what we saw with Micah, because she was very bubbly and friendly and very outgoing to everybody. And then all of a sudden she was very withdrawn. She was stressed. She just started having these tendencies that drew her inward rather than being outward. He took her life. He took away a lot from her before she was ever in a grave.